You're live.
Every mitzvah that a person goes through is usually certain wow shutting that you see and it sticks with you. And what I believe it is, there's certain things, at least for me, I can say for myself, in every lima, there's certain things that catches me. This man, second Seder, we learned the second pack of Shul Shchita, and definitely one of the wow shutting in the whole lima was the terrace time and Shchita. And so much so, to prove it, I walked outside after second Seder with the Elam after we were doing the second Seder, and Rabbi Brilla looked up on the sign, and he saw the title, something about Shchita, deeper meaning in Shchita. He looks at me and he said, Teres Chaim. I said, yeah, Teres Chaim. So, the Teres Chaim's Pshat and Shchita is something when I learned it, I was excited to maybe get an opportunity to share with the Elam. This Teres Chaim is brought down in Gilin Hashas by Kiva Eber. Now, as an Akdama, I verified this in the Rehoboam, the Teres Chaim preceded the Hasidic movement by many years, and I don't want anyone to walk out of the shit thinking that it's Hasidic, because this Pshat definitely borders on that realm. This has nothing to do with Hasidus, before Hasidus. So, before we get to Teres Chaim's Pshat in Shita, we have to give a little Akdama, some background information. In the Torah, there's a couple of Yisurim, we're going to discuss two Yisurim that could potentially be on a person when he wants to eat a piece of meat. You go to Publix, you pick up a piece of meat from the Goyish aisle. That meat is called Nevela. Nevela means any dead meat, regular meat that was not killed through a Maisa Shchita, that did not have Maisa Shchita on it. The meat, it's dead, it died somehow, but not through Shchita, that's called Nevela. It's an Issa Dairaisa. There's a second Isser that's called Treifa. Treifa means, even if you take a regular animal, a kosher animal, and you shecht it, a fully kosher shchita, 100% kosher. But there's issues in the body of the animal that make it called a treifa. There's a hole in the lungs, there's a hole in the bnei me'ayim, there's a hole in the brain, the spinal cord is cut, whatever it is, certain things that put the animal in sakana, whatever, I'm not going to get into the lore of treifa. Certain issues that the behemoth can have, and if it has these issues, even if I got a kosher shchita, it's still asa b'achila. So two separate yisurim, there's innocent avail, it means it didn't get shchita in the first place, it died, or got killed, not through shchita. And there's a second issur called treifa, which is even if there's a kosher shchita, if it has these issues in its body, it's asa b'achila anyway, it's also allowed deraisa because of treifa. However, there's one very, very important difference between the issur avail and the issur treifa. And that is that an avela, which means an animal that died, is tameh. If a person touches it, he becomes tameh. A treifa, even though the shchita did not make him mutter b'achila, still asa b'achila, but the shchita did help to get away its tameh. Usually an animal that dies without shchita and is asa b'achila is tameh. A treifa, because it got a kosher shchita, even though it's asa b'achila, there's no tameh. So Teres Chaim wants to explain, he wants to give a reason why shchita A takes away the Isser Achila, and B makes it tough. It says like this: the reason why the Eibishter told us that we can't eat animals that died not through shchita is because every single being that dies in this world, even animals, the way it dies is through the Malach HaMavis, the Sitra Acheres. That's what he says, the Ruach HaTumah. The animal dies not through shchita. It was killed by the Malach HaMavis, and because it was killed by the Malach HaMavis, it puts a koyach tumah on the animal, and the animal now becomes tameh, tumas nevela. That's why if you touch it, you become tameh. And the Torah doesn't want Klai Yisrael to eat lowly tumah de gezachim. And the Torah, the Kosh Baruch Hu told us, don't eat that animal. That animal was chat by the Yitzhahar, by the Sitra Achim, by the Malach HaMavis. Don't have anything to do with that animal. Don't eat it. And the Torah time adds, even if it was killed by a person, so one will argue it's killed by a person, so it wasn't killed by the Malach HaMavis. So it doesn't make a difference. No matter what happened to the animal, it died by itself or got killed, what actually brought its nefesh out, with the soif, the last Makabeh Padish that made it completely dead, is always the Malach HaMavis. Wherever there's death, there's an Malach HaMavis. So even if it got killed by a human being, If it wasn't killed b'shchita, it's going to have the tumas malach hamavis, and it's becoming a vela, also b'achila and its tam. So what did the shchita do? How did the shchita help us? So Teres Chaim says that when the Eibishter told us a mitzvah to do shchita, and we killed the animal b'mitzvah, it was taking the shmatz in the mitzvah shchita. Once we did a mitzvah in the killing of the animal, so the neshama goes out through a mitzvah, the male is not going to be a malach hamavis. Why? The mitzvah Hashem. If we shech the animal properly with the mitzvah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the malach hamavis chelik b'yitzias neshmasa. The malach hamavis has nothing to do with the fact that the neshama goes out. Ki mitzvahs Hashem teheres u'kdoshes. The mitzvah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu are tar, they're pure, they're kaddish. U'olam ha'tumah be'irachas min ha'kedusha. The tumah always runs away from kedusha. So the Teres Chaim, this is not Chazidish, this is Chuzah Shavar. Teres Chaim says when you do a mitzvah, you shech the animal, you be mekayim lotzon Hashem, the malach hamavis runs away, and the death is not because of the malach hamavis. The male there's no tumah, and the male is no debachila. That's the issue in Teres Chaim. Teres Chaim is mamshich, he has a whole shtickle Torah, and in the end, he wants to be miyasher a shver, a medrash, a pi a shtickle Torah.
Anytime there's a mitzvah to kill someone or something, there's no tumah on the person. You kill him all he's not tummy.
I hear. I don't know. So he's mamshich. He brings out a medrash. The medrash says that L'asad Lavai, Hakadosh Baruch Hu is going to take the Levyasan and the Shar Bar, and he's going to shech them, and we're going to have the sukkah of the Levyasan, the Ersha Levyasan, and Hashem's going to serve the suda of the Basar of the Levyasan and the Shar Bar to the Tzaddikim. And the Medrash says, how are they going to get killed? The Medrash says that the Shar Bar is going to take his horns and stab the Levyasan and kill the Levyasan. And the Levyasan is going to take his scales, and he's a huge Levyasan, it's going to take its scales and like hit the neck of the Shar Bar, and it's going to slice its neck. They both can kill each other and give out. That's what it's going to do. So the Medrash asks, the number of the Medrash asks Akash. If it uses its scales are different pieces. It's like a serrated knife. And we all know, I think anyone knows that a chalav, a shchita knife, can't have any begimas, can't have any nicks. It has to be completely smooth. If it has nicks, it's going to ruin the shchita. It's puzzle. Puzzles the shchita. So effective medrash, if you're going to take the scales of the levyasan and you're going to cut the neck of the animal, it's going to be an avela. It's going to be azar achila. How can the tzaddikim who are eating in that suda eat such a thing?
And if a fish shechs with the straight knife, then it's kosher?
It's a good question. It's a mission there.
It depends on how big the scales are.
What?
Depends on how big the scales are.
Guess the measures knew they're big enough to make an issue.
No, I'm saying if you have one big scale, and that one scale
The
is...
Shar Bar was huge, it's business. The Shar Bar Levyasan, you know. So the Medrash answers like this. The Medrash says that any tzaddik who is nizar his whole life not to eat nevel and trefis, the asl lavei Hashem's going to give him these nevelas and trefis and eat them. And it says, Torah chadash iti teitze. Because Baruch Hu says a new Torah is going to come out of you. And you're going to be able to eat these machalas asuras. So effective Teres Chaim, I don't understand. So one of the Yud Gimel Midas, one of the Yud Gimel Ikrim of the Rambam, is that there's not going to be anything new in the Torah for Allah. Oh, may add. The Torah is exactly how it was given in Sinai, nothing's going to ever change. Effective Teres Chaim, how chas v'shalom can we say that Allah love it, that tzaddikim are eating nevelas and trefis? There's not a pshat like this. He says, what it means Torah chadash iti teitze, it doesn't mean a new Torah. Chas v'chalila. It means that Hashem is going to explain to us a new pshat in the Torah that we didn't have before. And as Hashem is going to explain to us that what pshat, why nevelas is tamei and asar b'achila. Why is the nevelas a dead animal that didn't have shkita? Why can't I eat it? And why is it tamei? It's because of this pshat of Teres Chaim is telling us because the malach hamav is chapped it up in killing it. So Teres Chaim, l'asad lavai, what did Hashem do to the malach hamav? The Gemara at Sukkah tells us that Hashem shechs the malach hamav. He's gone. So l'asad lavai is no more malach hamav. So we don't need shchita anymore like that. Even unkin shchita, the misa is not from the malach hamamas. As I state in Teres Chaim. It's like that. That's a Torah chadash iti teitze. It doesn't mean a naya Torah. It means a naya galik and a naya pshat in Torah that we didn't have before. And the in this new pshat in the Torah that we didn't understand before, now we understand how you can eat nevelas and trefis l'asla. As I state in Teres Chaim. According to Teres Chaim, besides for Gishmak of pshat, which at least I'm never going to figure out, I don't think. comes out, he's saying a massive chiddush in understanding what shchita is, the matter of shchita. He's saying that the yesod of shchita is kol tali in the fact that there was a death to the animal through a mitzvah. That's what it has to be. The death of the animal happened through a mitzvah. And because the death happened through a mitzvah, Memela, there's no malachim avos there. So, going through the second parak, we had many rayas that there's another pshat in this. I'm going to go through all of them, go through a couple of them to bring out a point, and maybe a different way to look at shchita also.
So for him, if the shchita would be a mitzvah of Bavera somehow, then the animal would not be mutter?
Yeah. It sounds like.
Shchita's treif is a mitzvah shchita's treif.
No,
if you work out a case,
Every shchita's treif is not in
but shchita's treif also in mitzvah. Not in the video.
the mitzvah shchita's treif.
Listen, shchita of kibbutz tamid. You're doing a mitzvah. You want to think of bracha? No. So like this, the first sugya in the second parak in Shul, the first sugya is trying to figure out where do you shech. The Gemara has a bunch of very interesting havaminas that it's like you should look at the Gemara, you won't believe what I'm going to tell you. The Gemara has a havamina you should shech the tail, the Gemara has a havamina you should shech the nose, and the Gemara has a havamina you should shech the ear. 3 havaminas in the Gemara. Now, if the yesod of shchita is to kill the animal b'mitzvah, if you shecht off the tail of a cow, it's not going to die. And you shecht off its nose, it probably won't die. And you shecht off its ear, it probably won't die. And the Gemara has a havamina that if you do that, you're good. And you're carrying mitzvah shchita. And now, 10 days later, the animal dies. Gewaldig, I can eat it. How in the world can you tell me that cutting off its nose is going to be a kiyum of killing it through a mitzvah, not through the malach hamolis?
Eventually, the blood's going to drain out. It's a slow death.
Let's see you stop up the blood.
But
So then
let's
anyway,
say no,
then
you
it's a lie.
shashed it, and eventually
Then it's a lie. Then it's another.
Even
Shabbat.
Yeah.
Shchita is not even a chayv.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, what?
What?
What do you mean? Right, that's the more, that's the step 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, step 1 anymore, yeah. Another eye is the Gemara discusses by dogging. What's the halacha by dogging? So the Gemara says, the Gemara brings a pasuk. What's not pasuk? The Gemara brings a pasuk that dogging do not need shchita and chagavim. The Gemara brings a pasuk. It says in the pasuk, Hatzei v'abaki yishachet lahem is talking about in the midbar when Klaiso asked for the slug, and Moshe Rabbeinu tells HaKadosh Baruch Hu, no matter how much you give to them, they're not going to be happy. It says that Tzei v'abaki yishachet lahem, you could shech for Klaiso tzei bakar u'matz lahem. It means kol degei hayam ye osif lahem. Even if you would gather in all the fish of the sea, u'matz lahem, the pasuk says they still wouldn't be happy. The Gemara says that in the place of where it says you should do shchita by an animal, it says you do a sifa, you gather in by fish. So we learn that you don't need to do a shchita on fish. Now, the Rav Saligan learns out what you need to do in asif. You need to gather it. You need to trap it. And if it dies before you trap it, you can't eat it. Now, that means that he's equal. He's putting together shechting a cow. That's matter the cow achila to trapping a fish. Simply a trapped fish is not dead. It's very much alive. And the Malchamav didn't have him up yet. And if you tell me that you need a matter, the sort of the matter of shchita is to kill it through the malach, if you're mitzvah not through the malchamav, how could you be mash for that for trapping a fish? Another kasha. There's a halacha called the halacha of ben bakor. Ben bakor means if you have a mother cow that has a baby inside, an uber inside the mother. The fascinating halacha is if you shech the mother and you don't do anything to the child, the halacha is that the child is mutar b'achila. The child doesn't need its own shchita. There's a special exercise at Kasav. If you have a cow that is expecting and you shech the cow, the shchita works to be matter the child b'achim. The child can come out and it's running around for 5 years. And it's still matter b'achim. And it's real bona fide alive. And one day, what happens, I don't know, someone shoots him in the head and he dies, it's matter b'achim. Why? Because he got shchita. So you exercise at Kasav that anything that's inside the mother, when she gets shchita, the halach of shchita is on that animal. Now that baby that came out did not die through the shchita. When it got shot 5 years later, it died. And the Malchamav was chapped then, it wasn't a mitzvah. So again, it's mashma that there's another havana that shchita is not a halacha about killing the animal with mitzvah. Stam there's a new halacha called shchita. Meaning, it would seem, the Teres Chaim again is understanding that the yesod of shchita is to kill the animal with mitzvah. And we're trying to bring a couple of rayas that it seems like there's a new matter that you do a Maisa Shchita, whatever the Torah said. Let's say the Having the Gemara, you cut off the tail, you shech the mother, and you shech the mother, the animal, the baby inside has a Shchita. You do that action, the mitzvah of Shchita on the animal, it's a new halacha that it's matter b'achila. Without killing, nothing to do with killing. Now, what would be the havana? I mean, I'm trying to say a different shot Teres Chaim. I have to. He said it's about the mahal, so you have a different mahal from how shchita would make it mutter b'achila. So to base it off a Ramban and Rabbeinu B'chai in the beginning of the Bereshit. Rabbeinu B'chai is explaining the Ramban. And the Ramban's going on the pasuk that Hashem says to Adam Rishon that he can only eat. He's only allowed to eat vegetables, etc. He can't eat animals. Only after Noach it was mutter to eat animals. And the lashon of Rabbeinu B'chai is he says that an animal, even an animal that's not a human being, has a certain hecherka in his nefesh. Because he has a nefesh, he has a life. Yesh lo ktsas mayla asher b'mizdama al nefesh hamaskelas. An animal has a certain mayla that is similar to a human being. He says v'yesh lo b'chir b'tayvasav b'mizanei it has choice to protect itself, to eat, for its choice for its own good. The tibach min atzara min amisa, and it runs away from pain, it runs away from death. There's a certain in the in the totem pole of Daimon Tzemeach Chaim David, there's a certain ilui to an animal, and Hashem didn't allow a human being to be shared on an animal, to just have an animal like that. An animal has a certain cheshivas. We don't have the rights to take over an animal. A plant is lower. A plant we can take to ourselves. But an animal is its own bria. Only after the Mabel, where Hashem was good and all animals they should be destroyed, they have no right of king anymore. And Noach kept them alive. Now their whole king comes to Noach, then Hashem was matter them b'achila. But the Ramban says even after that, we didn't just have to just go and eat it. There was a process in order for us to be able to eat it. Meaning it sounds like he's saying there's still this concept that an animal has a certain chashivas, and there's no place for human beings just to take an animal and eat it. It also has life. It's a living being. There's no place for human beings to take a different living being and eat it. And there's a process of shchita, and the process of shchita is what makes it that we cannot eat it. So what does that mean? So could be what he means to say is like this. An animal unto itself is a bria. It's a being and we have no rights to eat it. The process of shchita is a maisa that is re-identifying the animal. Yesterday the animal was an animal, and it was a cow, and it was a certain chashivas. Hashem said if you do this maisa shchita, which has to be defined why, I'm not going to have time to do it now, this action of shchita that you're going to do on it is going to re-identify it, that it's no longer viewed as a cow in the pasture, it's right now viewed as a piece of meat on the shelf. You're mahabach its identity from a cow to a human piece of meat. Now it's human food. It's the process of switching its identity from a bria to Michael Adam. And through that process, that makes it that now I can eat it. The point isn't so much to kill it with a mitzvah. The point is that there's a certain matter, a maisa that's a mahachet, it's mitzias from behema to Michael Adam. So why would that make it that it's not tummy anymore? So let's say over a pshat that I heard when I was in Besmesh Shivaya. I don't remember if I heard this from Sol Newman or David Shostel, one of them. They said over B'Shem B'Shnar Kaplas Zatzah. A pshat, in every time there's Toma in the Bria, where the Toma comes from. Zokter, that parsha that he was darshaning on was the parsha of Thomas Yoledes, when Isha gives birth, there's Toma. He said any time there was a chiyas, there was a life inside of a person, and the chiyas left, the voidness of that chiyas is a tumah. Meaning, a lady has within her a baby, that's a chiyas, there's a chai, and the baby left her. That means there's a dahimik, there's a neshama that left her. In the wake of the vacuum of having chiyas, now it's empty, it's not there anymore. The tumah comes in and chaps it up. Let's say tumas nida, the same thing. Nida is a potential to have a child, and it didn't get utilized and it left the isha. So in the voidness of that potential is tumah. The same thing about tumas keri. The same thing about tumas misa. Tumas misa is that there's a body and had a neshama in it. The neshama left. Now there's a vacuum. There's a vacuum. There's no the kedusha left, and the tumah comes and runs in. So that's true. If in order to have tumah by behema, it means you have to have a concept called an animal. The animal has an nefesh. It has a certain maskels. It has a certain ilah. It's a live creature, and it has a das. and it could, like the Ramban said, it has choice for its own good. It could do things. If I take that nefesh out of the animal, and I have a shell of the body of the animal without its nefesh, then I have that vacuum and male tumor is going to come. What happens if I take the animal, and instead of viewing it as an animal without a nefesh, I completely re-identify it. And identify it that it's not an animal. It's food. It's a hamburger. I never now see that there's a process that there is the animal itself, the cow, void of a nefesh. That's not how I view what's happening. I don't view that I have the cow, as a chai, that just lost its chiyas, and now I have a cow without chiyas. I just re-identified it completely. And I gave it a new mitzias of a hamburger. A hamburger is not about chiyas. A hamburger is not a cow without chiyas. A hamburger is a new thing that never was shaykh to chiyas. It's a whole new concept. So in I completely jumped away from ever being shaykh to tumah. Tumah means that I have a shell. And there's a shell that should have had in the shell, and the shell is not there. So there's a vacuum, there's a voidness. A void means something should be there and it isn't. The male that creates a place for the tumah to come in. But if I never had that situation, I completely switch from a cow and I just completely re-identify. If that thing is gone and there's a new identification of a hamburger, what does the hamburger have to do with chiyas and tumah? So male it's in the time and they never else.
Ask you this treifa. Treifa, how can you do that?